giant volcanic rock walls rise up from the sea.
We consider the sheer scale of the Nan Madol construction site. It's mind-boggling.
Stone structures built right into the coral reef.
Night falls on a remote lagoon in the Pacific. Beneath the tangled mangrove shadows, black stone walls loom out of the water.
The stone heads of Easter Island. But just like there, this place, right here, was built to honor the spirits of the dead.
In April of 1907, Governor Victor Berg stands atop one of these ancient ruins, defying the warnings whispered by his guides. "No one stays the night at Nan Madol," the islanders pleaded. They speak of a curse on this forsaken city, a place they call the Reef of Heaven, but fear as a realm of ghosts. Berg dismisses their superstitions. As a tropical storm gathers in the distance, he makes camp among the megalithic walls, determined to prove there is nothing to fear in the ruins of a dead city. Lightning forks across the sky, illuminating towering columns of basalt stacked like giant logs. Rain lashes down, and the governor's lantern sputters out. In the darkness, the only sounds are the wind's mournful howl and waves slapping against the coral foundations. Hours drag by. What unseen eyes might be watching from the jungle across the channel, or from the silent courtyards submerged in black water? Governor Berg steels his nerves, but the weight of ancient dread presses closer with each rumble of thunder. Dawn breaks. The storm has passed. When the governor's attendants return, they find Victor Berg lying cold and still. By all appearances, he died alone in the night. Cause unknown. Whispers ripple through the island. Nan Madol has claimed another soul. The cursed city remains silent and impenetrable, guarding its secrets beneath the tropical sun. Long before outsiders, like Berg, ever set foot here, Nan Madol had already been swallowed by time.
Nan Madol is this mysterious island in the middle of nowhere.
Hidden off the coast of Pohnpei Island, its labyrinth of canals and stone islets lay abandoned for centuries beneath creeping mangrove forests. For local fishermen navigating the lagoon by day, the site was a place of wary reverence. From afar, one might see nothing at first but a dense green shore. Then, as you draw closer through the shallow waterways, monolithic walls suddenly emerge from the water. Massive black basalt rocks, stacked in geometric patterns. These are the ruins of a stone city built atop a coral reef. A city floating between land and sea. Early Western sailors who heard whispers of a Venice of the Pacific could scarcely believe such a place existed. But there it was, almost 100 artificial islets connected by narrow channels, covering nearly 200 acres. In stunned amazement, 19th century explorers wrote of vaulting seawalls and abandoned courtyards paved in coral. How could an ancient people on this isolated island, without metal tools or modern engineering, construct a city of stone atop the ocean? Stepping gingerly onto the algae-slick steps of a ruined platform, those first visitors found themselves surrounded by silent cyclopean architecture. Thick basalt walls, some 20 or 30 feet high, enclosed empty spaces where roofs and homes once stood. Tropical birds nested in cracks between the great stones. In the stagnant canals, fish darted among fallen columns. The atmosphere was eerie yet awe-inspiring. Sunlight filtered through the mangrove leaves, casting dancing shadows on the black walls. Every splash of a fish or rustle of a branch felt magnified in the quiet. The islanders accompanying early explorers refused to remain after dusk, speaking again of spirits that roam the deserted halls. The outsiders could sense why. Nan Madol felt different, charged with an unnatural stillness. It was as if the city itself was watching. Faced with these majestic ruins in such an improbable place, one question loomed above all. Who built this drowned stone city, and for what purpose? The answer, the locals said, could be found only in legends, passed down through generations. In Pohnpeian legend, Nan Madol's origins trace back to a time of magic. The tale speaks of two powerful brothers, sorcerers named Olisipa and Olisopa, who arrived on Pohnpei from a faraway land. They came seeking a sacred place to worship their gods, carrying arcane knowledge and supernatural powers. At first, the brothers tried to build altars on the main island, but each attempt failed. The jungle reclaimed their shrines, and their rituals brought no favor. Finally, guided by visions, the brothers turned their gaze offshore to the open reef and crashing waves. Under a sky shimmering with stars, Olisipa and Olosopa began to summon the impossible. With chants and the aid of a great dragon spirit, they called gigantic stones to rise.
Nan Madol is this amazing construction.
By torchlight, villagers watched in astonishment as basalt boulders flew through the air like dark birds, gently settling into the shallow waters off Temwin Island. Night after night, the sorcerers worked their magic. The sounds of drums and incantations echoed across the bay, as stone by stone.
Did all of our ancestors receive the same knowledge from the extraterrestrials? And the answer to that is a resounding yes.
An island city emerged where once there was only sea. When dawn broke, new artificial islets dotted the lagoon, rimmed by neatly placed basalt logs and infilled with coral sand.
Looking for material that could be used to build.
Right.
And I would say that an aerial survey would accomplish all of that.
It was as if the gods themselves were building a temple upon the water. At last, the brothers completed their masterpiece, an altar and ceremonial city like no other. Here they would honor Nanason Sapu, the god of agriculture, from a holy stronghold separated from the ordinary world by a moat of ocean. Legend says that once their work was done, the older brother Olisipa died of exhaustion, but Olosopa remained. He took a local bride, declaring himself Saudeleur, Lord of the Reef. From this union sprang a line of 16 Saudeleur rulers, and Nan Madol became the seat of their dynasty. Under the early Saudeleurs, the city prospered. The sorcerer kings ruled wisely at first, commanding respect as both divine priests and chiefs over all Pohnpei. For generations, the islanders repeated the tale of Nan Madol's magical birth. Even centuries later, they insisted no mere humans could have built such a city unaided. How else could those heavy stones have moved? How else could a city without fields or springs survive? The ruins themselves seemed to confirm the myth. What remained of Nan Madol felt charged with otherworldly energy on those moonlit nights when the wind died and the black basalt gleamed under the stars. But if the myths credit sorcery and dragons for Nan Madol's creation, the truth, buried in those very stones, might be even more astonishing. How did an ancient people truly raise a city of rock on a coral reef without magic? By daylight, Nan Madol's ruins tell a story of human ingenuity that rivals any legend. Scattered across the shallow lagoon are 92 man-made islets, each formed by painstaking human effort. The builders first laid enormous foundation stones onto the reef, then stacked columns of prismatic basalt in an interlocking pattern, like a giant's log cabin, to form high walls. Some individual basalt logs are as long as 20 feet and weigh anywhere from 5 to 50 tons. Without cranes, without wheels, without even beasts of burden, the people of Pohnpei somehow quarried these massive stones and transported them to the shore.
All right, so based on the measurements, you're looking at a weight of about 54 tons.
54 tons.
Yeah. So 50 tons, give or take.
And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those monoliths essentially stacked on top of each other.
It's believed the basalt came from a volcanic cliff on the opposite side of the island, nearly 25 miles away over steep jungle terrain. How could they haul slabs heavier than elephants across that distance, then ferry them to the lagoon and set them in place with precision? Archaeologists have tried to imagine the feat. Perhaps hundreds of workers dragged the columns on wooden sledges or lashed them to rafts, floating them around the coast. But the channels leading into Nan Madol are shallow and treacherous. Even modern attempts to move multi-ton stones by raft have failed against the currents. The basalt pillars then had to be lifted and fitted atop one another, building walls up to 30 feet tall and 15 feet thick. With each stone laid, the structure grew, stable without any mortar, solely by the sheer weight and clever placement of the rocks. The estimated total mass of rock used is staggering. Over 750,000 tons of basalt. That's as much stone as in some of the great pyramids of Egypt, all assembled by a remote island society with neither Pharaoh's wealth nor Pharaoh's tools. Every aspect of Nan Madol's construction raises questions. Why build a sprawling complex on the water when constructing on land would have been far easier? The very location meant that everything the city's inhabitants needed, fresh water, food, timber, had to be brought from the main island. Yet perhaps that was by design. The basalt fortifications and surrounding ocean made Nan Madol a sanctuary as much as a stronghold. Only those invited by the Saudeleur could enter this sacred space. The stones have kept their secrets well. To this day, no one knows for certain the exact methods used to move and raise them. No written records remain to explain the engineering. All that is left are silent walls and half-sunken platforms encrusted with coral, leaving us to wonder at the determination and organization it took to reshape a reef into a royal city. And the megalithic marvels of Nan Madol were not built as an empty monument. They became the stage upon which a unique civilization would flourish, and eventually perish. At the height of its glory, Nan Madol was the beating heart of a kingdom that ruled over Pohnpei. The Saudeleur dynasty, whose founders the legends shrouded in magic, gradually transformed into an all-powerful line of rulers. They centralized authority in their oceanic capital, drawing the island's clans under their dominion. Massive seawalls separated the Saudeleur's domain from the rest of Pohnpei, both physically and symbolically. Within Nan Madol's protected canals, the lords of the reef lived in splendor and ensured their subjects remained obedient. The city's design itself helped maintain control. High chiefs from each region were compelled to reside at Nan Madol, under the watchful eye of the Saudeleur. In this way, potential rivals were kept close, their influence back home curtailed. The nobility dwelled on the islets in fine houses, now long decayed, while priests performed ceremonies on sacred platforms. In the northeastern quadrant, a sector known as Pohnpei served as the mortuary district, holding tomb islets where royalty and high priests were laid to rest. Towering walls protected these burial complexes. One, called Nandawa's, is said to be the tomb of the first Saudeleur himself. By day, the sounds of ritual chanting and drum beats would carry over the water as priests offered gifts to the gods and proclaimed the Saudeleur's edicts. Each islet in Nan Madol served a specific purpose. Some islands were designated for canoe building or for preparing food and coconut oil for the nobility. On one central islet, sentries beat hollow log drums to send booming signals across the lagoon, a kind of ancient telegraph connecting the city with outlying parts of Pohnpei. In this way, Nan Madol functioned as a microcosm of the kingdom, a world unto itself orchestrated to serve the lords of the reef. For the common folk of Pohnpei, Nan Madol was a center of tribute and obedience. Farmers and fishermen paddled over with offerings of taro, breadfruit, fish, and sweet coconut wine to satisfy the court. The city had no source of fresh water, so water too was ferried in daily from the island's streams. Over time, the Saudeleur grew ever more demanding. Each new ruler seemed more tyrannical than the last, enforcing loyalty with an iron will. According to oral history, one late Saudeleur decreed that all worship across Pohnpei be devoted solely to his gods, forbidding the people's older deities. Resentment festered beneath the forced unity. Yet Nan Madol also held a mystique as a holy site.
The site of Nan Madol on the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia is one of the strangest places on the planet.
It was a place of divine kingship, a seat where mortal rulers styled themselves as living demigods. By concentrating spiritual and political power on a man-made island, the Saudeleur projected invincibility. Who could challenge lords who dwelt in a city built on the sea? For centuries, none did. Generations passed in the shadow of the great basalt walls. Nan Madol's canals bustled with activity, royal processions, religious festivals, whispered intrigues among captive nobles, plotting in vain. The city's black stone corridors and sun-dappled courtyards saw it all. But no empire lasts forever. Unknown to the Saudeleur, far beyond the eastern horizon, a challenger was rising. The dynasty's cruelty and overreach had sown the seeds of its own downfall, and the fate of Nan Madol would soon hang in the balance. According to legend, the end of the Saudeleur dynasty came as both prophecy and revenge. In the early 1600s, a warrior leader named Isokalekelt arrived on Pohnpei's shores with a band of fighters. Some say he was the son of a Pohnpeian woman and a foreign god, raised on a neighboring island and destined to avenge the wrongs of the Saudeleur. Others say he was a great chief from Sorcerers who had heard of the tyrant at Nan Madol and vowed to free the land. However it began, oral tradition holds that Saudeleur rallied local allies who had long chafed under Saudeleur oppression. With cunning and courage, he led an invasion straight into the heart of the Reef City. We can imagine that final battle in the channels of Nan Madol, rebel warriors slipping over the outer walls under cover of darkness, the cries of alarm echoing off stone. Thence, as the Saudeleur's guards scrambled to respond, spears and obsidian-bladed knives clash amid courtyards, where only priests had walked in peace for years. Torches gutter and smoke, their light reflecting in the black water as fighting spills across the islets. Outnumbered and despised, the last Saudeleur finds himself cornered. In one dramatic account, he flees into a canal and, whether by desperate sorcery or pure panic, transforms into a giant eel to escape his enemies. But even that guise cannot save him. Saudeleuer's warriors seize the slippery creature and slay it. And with that final stroke, the tyrant's lineage is extinguished. With the fall of the Saudeleur, Saudeleur established a new order. He took the title of Nanwarki, paramount chief, and introduced a more decentralized rule by clan chiefs. Though he initially made Nan Madol his seat of power, the glory of the Reef City was already waning. The practical hardships of life on the water quickly became clear. Without an army of forced laborers bringing them provisions, the new chiefs saw little sense in isolating themselves on these wave-wrapped islets. They had to paddle back to the main island for fresh water and tend their own fields for sustenance. One by one, the victors of the rebellion drifted inland, establishing their villages in Pohnpei's river, valleys, and hills. Nan Madol fell quiet. The great stone city was never destroyed by fire or earthquake. It was simply abandoned, left to stand empty against the encroaching elements. Over the years, tropical vegetation crept over the walls. Coconut palms and banyan trees took root in the cracks, toppling smaller structures. The canals, once kept clear by hundreds of workers, clogged with silt and sprouted mangroves. Fish and turtles swam through what had been royal audience halls. The very effort that had gone into building Nan Madol helped ensure its survival. Those colossal basalt walls would not easily crumble, even as wooden roofs and huts disintegrated. Still, local people avoided the ruins. The place had been the domain of gods and absolute rulers. Now it felt tainted by their downfall. Stories spread that the ghosts of defeated Saudeleur lords haunted the deserted islets. Anyone who dared to steal stones from the site or disturb its tombs risked a dreadful curse. Nan Madol became a forbidden zone, a haunted city slowly succumbing to jungle and sea. Its dark profile on the water at dusk was a reminder that even the mightiest of dynasties could be brought low, and that some places were better left undisturbed. But curiosity about Nan Madol never died completely, and centuries later, the world would once again take notice of the Reef of Heaven. For generations after its abandonment, Nan Madol slumbered, known only to the people of Pohnpei. It wasn't until the late 1800s that outsiders truly rediscovered this lost city. European missionaries and explorers, hearing whispers of stone ruins in the mangrove swamps, ventured out to see if the legends were true. They were not disappointed. Sketches and later photographs of Nan Madol's basalt walls and overgrown canals made their way into scholarly circles, sparking fascination. How had a sophisticated center of power arisen in such isolation? Was this a lone marvel, or the hint of a broader lost civilization in the Pacific? In the early 20th century, as we saw with Governor Berg, Nan Madol's mystique proved both alluring and ominous. Berg's sudden demise in 1907, following his brazen intrusion into a sealed tomb, only cemented the site's fearsome reputation. Colonial officials, anthropologists, and adventurers arrived with a mix of scientific curiosity and superstitious caution. Some reported strange occurrences, an unnerving quiet where birds should sing, or an inexplicable chill when stepping onto certain islets. Local guides would share hushed warnings, accounts of ancestral spirits and misfortune that befell those who disrespected the ruins. Even today, many Pohnpei hens hesitate to linger in Nan Madol after nightfall. The fear of disturbing whatever might dwell among these ruins still runs deep, a quiet respect that has helped keep the site undisturbed by casual trespass. Over time, archaeologists pieced together more of Nan Madol's true history. Carbon dating of charcoal and shell fragments confirmed that the megalithic construction occurred between the 12th and 15th centuries, aligning with the oral histories of the Saudeleur era. Researchers uncovered evidence of habitation, hearths for cooking, remnants of sea life in ancient kitchens, shell tools, and human burials in tombs. Yet, many mysteries remain unsolved. Large sections of the city have yet to be excavated. Some structures lie submerged just offshore, hinting that parts of Nan Madol may have slipped under rising seas, or that the complex was once even more expansive.
You can take a compass and run it along these basalt blocks, and your compass will just spin.
Than known. Full purpose of certain islets. Were they all residences and ritual sites, or do hidden chambers still lie buried? Continues to tantalize those who study the site. In recent years, Nan Madol has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, celebrated for its uniqueness as a floating stone city and its cultural significance to Micronesia. Even so, it remains a remote and rarely visited place, guarded by its maze of mangroves and the relentless Pacific tide. Those determined few who venture here often find the ruins just as atmospheric as centuries ago, lonely, majestic, and tinged with the inexplicable. Standing atop a broken basalt wall, gazing across a grid of canals now carpeted in green algae, one can't help but feel a profound connection to the people who dared to build this place. The air is thick with the sense of antiquity and myth intertwined. Island elders still tell the tales of Nan Madol, of sorcerer architects, warrior liberators, and a grand city that rose and fell on the waves. The site's very existence challenges our understanding of what small societies can achieve. It invites us to ponder how many other chapters of human history lie hidden beneath jungles or beneath the sea, waiting to be revealed. Nan Madol stands as both a ruin and a lesson, a testament that even in one of the most remote corners of the world, human ambition and imagination left an indelible mark. The curse, the kings, the colossal stones, all these facets of Nan Madol's story coalesce into an enduring enigma. In the end, this lost city has kept its greatest secrets locked behind crumbling walls and silent waterways. As our boat departs the Reef of Heaven and its black ruins fade into the lush shoreline, we are left with a final haunting image. A ghostly city adrift on the Pacific, whispering that there are mysteries in our world still waiting to be uncharted, still waiting to be understood.